You are now listening to the A2J2 podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the A2J2 podcast, a podcast where all four of us firmly agree that Damian Lillard is a better basketball player than Steph Curry. As
Same
always,
time, baby. It's same time.
Jared,
As
throw
always-
up the emote, please.
I am joined by Andrew Hill, Austin Curtis, and Jordan Ice, and I am James White. Today we have a very rangy episode. We're talking multiple different sports here. It's going to be probably the most all-encompassing episode we've had to this point. We're going to start in the NBA. The first thing on the docket is a week ago. I wish you would have done it the night before so we could have pined after it a little bit more when it was fresh on our mind. But Damian Lillard last Sunday dropped 71 points on the Houston Rockets. We are very on record here as being very pro Dame Lillard. I know that the haters will say that it was against the Rockets. However, I haven't seen anybody else put 71 on the Rockets this year. So, Jordan, what'd you think about that performance?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, it's an all-time performance. And honestly, the game wasn't very close until like the fourth quarter. That's when Dame came in, scored more. He had 40-something in the first half, 41. I don't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
But if it was a more competitive game, I mean, he could have scored 80 or 85, honestly, because he set out for, I think, like the first 8 minutes of the second half because they had like a 20-point lead. So it was an all-time performance, and Damian Lillard is an all-time player. I mean, he needs help. And we talked about it before the podcast. Send Bradley Beal over to the Trailblazers. Just give him somebody. Because I know we'd all love to see him in a position where he could go try to win a title. And he just can't right now because he just doesn't have any help. So, yeah, it's a heck of a performance.
I basically have the same stuff written. I just said get him out of there, get him to a team that can help him, or get him help to his team because he doesn't deserve to be there and have to suffer with that when he's sitting there putting an all-time performance up there. Like, that's one of the ones you talk about in the future. Like, hey, Dame hit. Do you remember when Dame put down 71? That's crazy. I mean, just a better player. Just better than Steph, and that's what we expect from him. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, first of all, no, he's
Andrew, what
not
do you
better
think?
than Steph. So just stop. Steph is hurt for one. So yes, he's had some injury problems, but back to Dame. Yes, it was impressive. It was an offensive just slaughter, but I take more away from the fact that it's against the Rockets. I know that you're going to call me a hater and whatnot, but which I was a Dame doubter, and I felt like he only showed up against the Warriors, but I take that back now, obviously. I mean, he's balling out. But the Rockets are awful. I feel like it was just a perfect storm for him to blow up. He has nobody else on his team. I mean, the next person to there was one other person on his team, I can't remember who it was, but it had 10 shots, and then everybody else was like 4 shots, 3 shots, 2 shots. And Dame put up.
Jeremy Grant is the second best player on that team.
Yeah.
No, he needs help or he needs to leave. I know he doesn't want to join a super team, but he needs help. So
my biggest argument against when you say it's the Rockets is exactly what I was just talking about, because it wasn't a competitive game. If it's a competitive game, the ball's in Dame's hands, pretty much all game. He's playing probably 35 minutes or something, whereas he didn't. I think he hit 30 minutes that game, maybe. And also the Rockets, I mean, still an NBA team. To do that against an NBA team, any NBA team, it doesn't matter. I know
Like
the
I said,
Rockets
nobody else has done that. Nobody else has scored 71 on them.
Yeah, I mean, the Rockets are essentially like a WNBA team at this point. They're that bad, but like it's still an NBA team at the end of the day. So I just think it's extremely impressive, and I don't think we'll ever see that from Steph. But that's just because Dame's better. But it's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Steph does have a team who takes shots, and Dame was the only one shooting that night, so there's also that.
As he is most nights. The second thing and the third thing on the list this week kind of coincide with one another. The Bucks, their 16-game win streak comes to an end last night at the hand of my Philadelphia 76ers. But what I had written for the 76ers is that they're inconsistent. And you've seen that this week is the perfect sample size of that. They lost to the Heat on Monday, and then they smashed that same Heat team on Wednesday without Joel Embiid. He sat out that game. Then they let Luka and Kyrie just feast upon them midweek. They both gave them a 40-piece. and then last night they break the Bucks win streak. So I mean, the Bucks are still. I mean, it was a great game.
Yeah, Harden dropped 38 in that game too.
Harden had a great game last night.
Also
For some
flops
reason,
also.
do what?
He also flops like that block call was just.
Yeah.
Grayson Allen plays for you all.
Hey,
That's all I'm
hey,
gonna
hey,
say.
hey,
Grayson Allen, and he had a great game last night. And I was like, of course, this freaking turd is dropping bombs on our head. I hate him. But thank God we overcame that. If you lose to the Bucks because Giannis is having a huge game or Drew Holiday's playing well, like, okay, like I can handle that. Like if Drew Holiday decided do what?
You don't want to lose to Grayson
No,
Allen.
I
That's
hate
the
Grayson
reason I
Allen.
lost.
So
Yeah.
You loved him in college, though, right?
do
Yeah,
what?
James.
You
loved
loved him in college, right?
No, I hate him. I
He
hate him.
grows on you. When he's on your team, he grows
will-
on you. He gets
Nope.
better. It's
Nope.
okay then.
No,
I
if he
think
ever plays for the
I-
Sixers, no.
I hated him when he was, and then he came, and now he's all right. He grows on you. It's like a leech or something, you know.
I just want to remind you, he was a freshman on that team that beat Wisconsin in the championship game.
I know, and he
Okay,
touched.
so
They
It
should
touched
have
the
never. Wisconsin should have been in the championship that year.
It
but-
touched the ball. He
No.
touched the ball. He touched the ball. He touched the ball. He touched the ball. I'll say it a million times.
Justice
Touched the ball.
Winslow did touch the ball. It was out of bounds on him. But you have the Bucks, who are, I think, I mean, they're still one of the, if not the favorite in the East. Them and the Celtics are the best two teams in the East. The Sixers are just, they got to find some consistency. You see it this week talking about Tyrese Maxey. He needs to get the ball more. He needs to have more shots. He's very much the third option on that team behind JoJo and Harden.
Harden when
And
he
I
wants
feel
to
like
play.
When Harden wants to play,
Yeah,
he's played
Right.
most of the time this year.
I know, but he's
But
kind of so-so.
you loved James Harden until
I know, but no, I do, but I just feel like he's been a little more inconsistent. Like there was I think it was in the Bucks game. He crossed up somebody, I can't remember who it was, but dude fell to the ground. He stopped, did his little jiggle, and then airballed it, or clanged it
Yeah.
off the backboard. Like
I mean,
he still dropped 38, but still he's inconsistent.
he's not the player that he once was. He doesn't
Yeah.
dominate the ball as much with this
It's not,
team.
it's not a bad thing because I mean I think the facilitator of that team is Tyrese Maxey and it has to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But it's just interesting to see those two teams battle it out, and like if we see those two teams play a 7-game series, it could be real fun. I think
I think
the
that'd be a
Bucks
great
certainly-
series.
It would be. The Bucks have the upper hand just because they have Giannis, they have the pedigree, they've
Grayson
been there,
Allen.
they've done that.
Yeah. They got
That's
Grayson Allen.
not who I'm worried about if we played them in the playoffs. It's not at all who I'm worried about. But it was good to see the Sixers play with the team that was by far the best team in the NBA at this current point.
Mhm.
But
Like I've got the Bucks winning it all. That was my pick when we picked a couple
Mhm.
weeks back. I think the Bucks are still the most dangerous team in the East and maybe in the entire NBA when it comes to the playoffs because they're built for the playoffs.
yeah,
One note about the Sixers is like they're just the most like they're the biggest anomaly in the NBA, right? Like if they play their best, they can beat anybody. So their
Mhm.
ceiling is literally the championship. But I honestly think their floor is losing in the first round because we've seen them play where they just don't play well. Like maybe they go up against Cleveland or somebody in the first round. I mean, it's not going to be an easy matchup. And if they don't show up, I think you could see them losing out in the first round, which would be a giant disappointment for them. But if they turn it on, get hot in the playoffs, then I mean, they're easily a title contender and one of the favorites.
yeah. Inconsistency is the word that you associate with the way they're playing. So
Mhm.
Basically,
can you
just
put it all together? I mean, they need to string some wins together before the playoffs because you can't just try to figure it out whenever the most important time of year comes around. So we'll see. Still, if the playoffs started right now, I mean, I had the Celtics winning it all, but I think that it would end up coming down between the Celtics and the Bucks. But and then I think they're probably going to end up playing probably the Suns. That Suns Mavericks game that's going on right now is super fun to watch. I'd like to see those two teams go against each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, right now it's a
That would
2-point
be
game
fun.
with a minute left. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But we'll transition to the Kings, and I'm gonna let Jordan. I'm gonna let our resident Kings fan tell the people why the Kings deserve more love.
I mean, they definitely deserve more love. I was going to talk more about can they make noise in the playoffs. I think honestly, they're flying under the radar, but they can beat anybody in the NBA on any given night. They can literally outscore anybody. We've seen that in that Clippers game where they scored like almost 180 points. And then they played the Clippers again on Friday and beat them, scored another 130. They're number one in the NBA in points per game at 121. But the thing that worries me is how bad they are defensively. Because on the other side of it, they give up 118 points a game, which is 28th in the NBA. But the reason I think they can beat anyone is one reason: De'Aaron Fox. Like De'Aaron Fox, he's had an awesome season, but one thing that kind of flies under the radar again is he's the most clutch player in the NBA right now. There's zero question about it. He has 40 total clutch baskets, which is most in the NBA by 8. Next highest has 32. And in those clutch times, he's 61.5% field goal percentage, which is nuts. And then, of course, they just came out with that new award, the Clutch Player of the Year. So I think he's got to take that. So, do I expect them to make much noise in the playoffs? I think they'll win a series. Really depends on who they get matched up with. Because it's kind of seeming like if they end up 3, 4, 5 in that range, they're probably going to end up playing the Suns and the Mavericks. And that would be a lot of fun. But, I just think they can outscore literally anyone. They have great home court advantage. So if they can hang on to that 3 or 4 seed and get kind of home court advantage in that first round, I think it'd be big for them. But, the West is loaded, though. Like,
Yeah.
You just don't know who you're going to play coming out of it. It could be the Clippers. It could be the Suns. It could be the Mavericks. And are we going to be favored against them? No.
Yeah.
Just never mentions the Warriors. That's the best part of that.
Well, actually, the reason I actually meant to go on to that. The reason I mentioned the Warriors, I kind of expect the Warriors to jump up, though. I expect them to be. I think the Warriors, the Suns, and the Kings are going to be battling for that 3 spot in the West at the end of it. So I think those will be 3, 4, 5. Whereas 6, it could be the Mavs, could be anybody. The Warriors are getting hot right now. They scare me the most in the West right now.
Yeah, and they're
my notes for the Kings. I have literally. You wrote it pretty basically. I have the fact of their points per game and then their literal defense. I was like, they can beat anybody in the league. So a 7-game series would be insane, but they can also lose to anybody on the West. Like a 7-game series is like a 50-50 gamble with them. So
Yeah,
I'd love to see them make a splash just because they are an entertaining team to watch. I love offense. And to bring in the fact of moving in, I'll just help move us into the next point. Curry comes back Sunday. And that's the second best shooter of all time. That's crazy. You're going to get that back on that Warriors team that's getting hot.
Can you just stop? Just
I like how you
the
just
disrespect. First of all,
I was gonna transition into that and say Curry does return today to face off against the Lakers team that does not have LeBron currently, and I'm gonna let Andrew talk about Steph Curry a little bit.
Well, I was actually going to mention the Kings a little bit just to kind of. I didn't really say my piece on that.
Go
I
ahead,
think they could make a run in the playoffs, and for one reason, and that's De'Aaron Fox. He's been playing out of his mind. Over the season, he's got 25 points per game, but over the last 10 games, he's at 33.2 points per game, 7 assists, 30% from 3, and over 55% from the field. He's a top guard in the league.
Last night he snapped he had 10 games in a row where he scored 30 plus points. Last night he had 29. So
yeah, he's been playing incredible. So I do think they can make a run. And like Austin said, he's wrong about other things, but I think they can beat anyone, but they can also lose to anyone. So but
they're kind of like USC in football. Like they can score with anybody, but they'll also let Tulane drop 40 points on them or whatever. So
last night Minnesota scored 135 on the Kings, and that was in regulation. Like that didn't go to overtime.
It's like watching Big 12 football.
It is.
Yeah,
it's fun though. You got to say it's fun. Like that's
what I said.
I think that's the NBA needs teams like that, like young teams that run up and down the court super fast, but don't really have that like big name superstar. It's just guys that are out there and dishing, hitting threes. I just think that's what the NBA needs. A little bit of excitement on that.
For sure.
Definitely.
They're an exciting team, but Curry today, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, the greatest shooter of all time is coming back to basketball today.
Damian Lillard?
No. So I'm excited. I'm definitely going to tune into that game. I think the Warriors are going to get hot, and I think they need Curry, especially in the playoffs. They have Jordan Poole. He's been outstanding for them. He's a good replacement whenever Curry's, hurt or needs a break. But I feel like it's a different team when Curry's out there, and I'm excited that he's back. I just hope he can stay healthy. Definitely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Klay Thompson's getting hot right now. Like Klay
Yeah, he
Thompson's
is.
he started
Yeah.
the season off very mediocre. But
Mhm.
ever since Steph went down, he's really stepped it up, which
He's
has
picked it
got
up for sure.
they've won like four in a row or something now. So
Something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I think saying Clay was mediocre at the beginning of the season might honestly be giving him too much credit
yeah, I
because
agree.
he was not the Clay Thompson that we know.
Mhm.
He's the other half of the Splash Brothers, but he's starting to
It now
feel
feels
it.
like it's Jordan Poole is the other half of the splash.
Yeah.
At least that's
Mhm.
what it felt at the start of the
It
season.
does.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't take away the fact that Clay is very important to that team still because he's such a
Good defender.
asset on the defensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
He generally will take away that team's best player or at least try to contain them. So you kind of have the perfect storm with them. You've
Yeah.
got these guys that have played together for a long. And Andrew, if you recall, whenever the Warriors drafted Jordan Poole, I told you that I thought that was a really good fit because he was a sniper at
Mhm.
at Michigan.
Yeah.
So, and you've seen that. He's been able to translate into that system very well.
Definitely.
Steve Kerr can never doubt a team coached by Steve Kerr. They were like not that long ago in a play-in spot, and now they're working their way up. And it's so competitive in the West that a team that, but you look at those teams in the West. I mean, sure, you have KD on the Suns now, and you have Kyrie on the Mavs, but very few teams in the West have any sort of playoff pedigree whatsoever playing together. The Suns did make a run a couple of years ago, but you also have Chris Paul, who seems to be cursed in the playoffs. So,
Mm-hmm. And Devin Booker's always he's got hamstring problems. He's always getting hurt and stuff. So
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how the West plays out. I think that of course, when you have one of the best players in the league come back to a team that's already on a win streak, it's going to be fun to watch. And they play the Lakers, who are not very good, and I'm pretty sure AD's not playing either. So you're going to be playing.
Believe it or not, that's wild.
Yeah, he's hurt all the time. He's the most
Yeah.
injured. He's fallen off, but that's neither here nor there.
Speaking of just a little bit of live stuff, Luka just got into a fight with Devin Booker. I think they're both about to get ejected.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
nice.
So
I
that's
think I'm
kind of
missing that.
yeah.
That's funny. Luka's got that dog in him, man. I don't think Devin Booker wants those problems.
So Devin Booker,
He definitely doesn't want that.
That man is from like a pretty interesting part of Europe. I don't know that you want to mess with that kind of guy. That speaking of people who think that they're tough, Ja Morant, the guy. Whenever he was at Murray State, he was so fun to watch. In the NCAA tournament, it was this guy who had made a name for himself in his last year at a very small school. You watched him dunk on people in March Madness and win a game or two that you didn't really expect him to win. Very exciting player. Has been an exciting player since he came into the league. But it just like I put on the notes, he needs to chill out, man. And I sent that video of Jalen Rose to the group chat. Like, listen to that man. He knows what he's talking about. Like, dude, what are you doing? Stop throwing your career away for some clout. You don't need to do that. So I don't want to pile on because I know you all got stuff to say, but it's just it's really disappointing to see somebody with that kind of talent act so immature.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me the way he's acting now is just because like he grew up in a really nice home. They had money, went to private school, all these things, and it's like when you're a basketball player young, I mean, you dream about playing in the NBA, you dream about being a superstar, and I think we can all agree that Ja Morant is a superstar. I mean, he's on the very short list of NBA players who you can consider a superstar. And if he doesn't stop doing the things that he's doing and hanging around the people that he's hanging around, because I heard Shannon Sharp say it, when you make it big like this, you got to just cut some people off. You may love them, they may be your boys, whatever. You got to cut them off if they're not going down the right path because they're going to take you with them. And I'm just afraid of what's going to happen if he continues hanging around those people and doing the things that he's doing. Like I said in the group chat, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in prison or even worse, even dead or something in the next few years if he keeps going down this path with these people who are toting guns and doing all this crap. I mean, it's completely unnecessary. You're making all this kinds of money. Cut those people out. Get yourself around better crowds and just take care of yourself, man. Like, you're one of the best players in the NBA. I don't want to see him out of the league, but if he continues down this path, he won't be in the league in a couple years.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you can tell like his come up and like him growing up, he didn't have like he wasn't a part of this. This is something new. Like you were in the wrong group. Like this is the wrong club. Like you saw him holding it. He's holding it like who holds it? Who holds it? You're like pinching it at the top. Like I don't want to touch it, but look at it dangle. Like it. That's not how you handle that's not how you handle something like that. And obviously you can tell he has no experience, no anything. Like you're now wrapped into something that you didn't get involved with. Like you don't know this. You're not a part of this. So stop. Just focus on what you're doing. Like you're a role model. Like kids look up to John Morant. Like focus on what you're doing. Get back into it and like stop with the bull crap.
Yeah, and I mean what you said about role model. I mean that's perfect because John Morant, whenever the thing came out about that 17-year-old kid that he punched, multiple times and pulled a gun on or whatever. I mean that's a perfect role model opportunity. It was at John Morant's house. This kid is like an up and coming high school player, 17 years old. Like that is a time when you can mentor a guy like that. And instead you're making enemies of it. And I mean again, you're an adult in the NBA fighting a 17-year-old high school kid. It's just a bad image. I mean, I don't see any kind of leadership in the guy, unfortunately. But maybe it's never too late to turn it around. We'll see.
No.
Yeah, we can hope so. I pretty much had down the same thing you guys had, that he could be. I mean, he could have been this generation's LeBron, Kobe,
Yeah.
Curry. I mean, he could have been that guy, the face of the league, and he wants to throw it all away for a little clout and street cred. I mean, he's trying to make it to the hood, I guess. I don't know, but it's unfortunate because he could have been a role model. He could have been somebody these kids can look up to. They want to be like him. I mean, he's spectacular on the court. He can throw down dunks that you've never seen before in game, and it's just unfortunate he wants to take that route. But hopefully, he gets a wake up call and he can turn it around.
And he did say he's stepping away for a little bit to work on himself, and I really hope that he does, because he's like we've all said, he's a very entertaining player, and we've seen that he's not a bad guy. There's videos of him giving a pair of shoes to a kid after a game, and it meant the world to that kid. It's one of those videos that you watch and it gives you chills because you see how much it means to that kid. You see videos of him tipping a waitress at like a diner like $500.
I saw that one.
That's the guy that the NBA needs. That's the guy that
he's just. I think he's hanging around a wrong crowd. I mean, I think that's what you could. But he needs a role model, someone who says you need to step away from these people, because you can see it. He's got a good heart. It's just, I think he's around the wrong people.
Yeah, and when you haven't been in that situation before, it's a difficult situation to be in. But we know that he's got it in him. He's a phenomenal player. He can be an excellent young man and an excellent role model if he wants to be. And I pray that while he is taking this time away from the game and serving the suspension, that he really takes a hard look at himself and fixes this, because I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him to turn it around, because he's fun to watch. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's in state. He's on the other side of the state, but he's in state. Everybody knows this state's starved to have at least one team that can do something and not break their hearts. And this is just kind of going. None of us are Grizzlies fans, but it would be interesting to see them make a run. Just come on, Jaw. Be that guy. But that will lead us to our next topic, which is the Major League Baseball season, which is quickly approaching. We've seen Andrew's really pumped.
I'm excited.
He doesn't even have a favorite MLB team.
He's a huge baseball fan over there.
Andrew's going to learn more about baseball this year than he ever has before. So it's going to be
I
interesting.
hope so.
We can go back to this episode at the end of the season in October, November, and see where you're at. But first thing I want to talk about is the pitch clock. We've seen it instituted in these spring training games. We've seen it used in college games. It's very interesting. The game is quicker. I think I heard a stat that said that it's shaving like 23 minutes off of games. The MLB thought that they needed to do this because they thought games were too long. Attendance is down. The viewership is down on TV. And we've seen it, do exactly that. The thing that I want to ask you all here, first of all, do you like it? And second of all, do you think it's a bigger disadvantage to the pitcher or the hitter?
Can
So,
I take the wheel on this one to
yeah,
start
go
here?
ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. I just want to say I think it's too early to tell if I like it or don't like it. I have points on both sides of this. One, you just said it shaves off 23 minutes. That brings it to be NFL games average 3 hours and 12 minutes, while MLB games will now average, I think it's 3 hours and 6 minutes. But yet, we have, I think it's 18 minutes of in-game time where the ball is actually moving in football.
Mhm.
To, I think it's 23 minutes in baseball. The problem isn't timing. It's not timing. And I get we have the play clock, the shot clock. We have all these clocks that like mandate the speed of the game. It's not that. You're slowing down the game. You don't allow social media presence at the games. You don't allow players to be social media like representatives of your sport. You limit the league to be this old-timey league. You yell at players when they celebrate. You're focusing on the wrong part of baseball to fix it. Now the positive side. I think it's very fun and interesting. I think it adds a totally cool dynamic, but
Yeah.
it's not going to bring in the viewership they're adding. And I think it adds a huge advantage to the pitchers at first, but at the end of the season, it's going to be the batters. And let me explain why. Max Scherzer, the other day, he took advantage of the system.
Mhm.
This man was set immediately. He's set immediately, and he starts the clock right when that first foot went in there, and he's
And then
throwing
the batters
lasers.
gotta look at him within 8 seconds. And so that,
Yep,
yeah.
and he had to waste his time out, and then he went back. He's already set. He stayed set. He didn't care. He just stayed there, and like it threw off the batter so bad. But that's
Mhm.
just Max Scherzer. He's just a weirdo. You know he was gonna do weird things with it. Like
I love
that's
that
just
guy.
the type.
Go
Yeah,
Max.
that's just the type of guy he is. So you knew he was gonna do some weird stuff and try to play with it. I think once the pitchers develop a meta of like how to abuse this to mess with the batters, it's gonna give an advantage to the pitchers at first. Some ESPN notifications is supposed to I apologize for that. And I think it's gonna give advantage to the pitchers at first, and then as the batters learn it, they're gonna abuse the pitchers back. So I think it'll swing pitchers first, and then in the end of the season, it's gonna be going into the batters. But I don't think it was necessary to bring it in there. You're focusing on the wrong things for ratings.
Yeah. So I actually disagree on the fact that it's going to swing to batters. So I was a pitcher in high school, and the one thing that is about pitching, it's all about rhythm. And so when you talk about speeding things up, it actually, for me, it's an advantage for the pitchers because you get in that rhythm and you're throwing a strike, you step back, you do it again, you do it again. And I feel like sometimes these hitters will get in the batter's box, get out of the batter's box, get in the batter's box, get out of the batter's box to try to tear up a pitcher's rhythm. They can't do that anymore. And so I think it's going to be over the long term and immediately, I think it's going to be an advantage for the pitchers, at least in that aspect. Um, I actually think it's good for the game because it does speed it up a little bit. We don't get all that crap about stepping out of the batter's box and doing so and so to your bat, adjusting this and that. It's stupid. So I think it's good for it. But the one thing that concerns me is the MLB is making a lot of changes too. Like the bases are now bigger, they're closer together, which I think we're going to see a new stolen bases record for a regular season with the bases being bigger and closer together because every single time someone steals, it's bang bang. Like it's going to make a big difference. So I'm just interested to see how all the players like adjust to all of the changes at once because there's a lot of things going on in the MLB. But you're exactly right. Like they need to look at the entertainment factor. At the end of the day, yes, it's a sport, but it's also like a TV show, a movie, whatever. It's entertainment. And if you're not letting the players celebrate, you're not letting them do whatever, like that's a detriment to the game. And I'm afraid I'm starting to see the NFL going that route too, where it's all like no celebration, the no fun league, right? So, but the MLB's always been like that. It's just old school. But with new players, Fernando Tatis coming in, he's got all this swagger and stuff. Just let them have fun because that's going to attract young people to want to watch the MLB and want to play baseball. So,
Yeah. That's the thing about baseball is, we called it in the pre-show, it's America's pastime, but it also, with that America's pastime mantle, you've got so many gatekeepers with this game where you have like all these old people are just like, that's not real baseball. It's like, shut up, dude. Like you see Tennessee, like the University of Tennessee's baseball team last year was like one of the most hated teams in the most hated team in the NCAA because they did exactly what you were saying.
because they were having fun. Like
They
they
were
were
having
having
fun. They're flipping their bat. They're putting the mink coat on. They're wearing the daddy hat. They're bringing fun to baseball. And I saw that as I coached high school baseball for 2 years, I saw that transition into high school baseball. We at the school I coached at last year, we had a daddy hat. It was a cowboy hat. If you had a home run, you got to put it on. Like celebrating the accomplishments mid game makes it more fun. Let people do that, like you said. I'm fine with the pitch clock. I think that a lot of time is wasted. And I liked what you said. You played baseball in high school, but being around it for a couple of years, coaching middle school and baseball, or middle school and high school baseball, seeing how people's rhythm can be thrown off, calling timeout. But in some cases, pitchers will try to stand there and hold for a long period of time just to kind of wait you out, see if you will call time. So that'll be interesting to see if pitchers try to. It's kind of what Scherzer did the other day. Use your one timeout. I don't know whether or not I agree with Austin or not. I agree that it's an advantage to the pitchers right now. You go in, you gotta know what pitches you're gonna throw. You don't have as much time to sit there and shake pitches off or anything like that now.
Yeah. Sure.
So that could transition into a bigger advantage to the hitters if you do your homework and you say, okay, if he's rushed, he's gonna he favors this pitch, so on and so forth. But you saw it the other day in a spring training game where the Yankees' Wandy Peralta struck out a batter in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I saw that.
The whole at bat lasted 20 seconds. If a pitcher gets on a roll, and you can't call time, and in some we've seen it in college baseball. Some even if you call time, if you call it a little too late, like the umpire does not have to grant it to you.
Yeah.
I saw a pitcher for Tennessee try to call time, and they just didn't give it to him. So it's interesting to see.
I just wonder how much leniency they're going to have on the pitch clock, because you think of moments like in the World Series, right? Like towards the last out. I mean,
Yeah.
they say they get 2 strikes, everybody's standing going crazy and everything, but that pitcher's got to get the pitch off in that amount of time. It's just like it doesn't let the suspense build. So I wonder when it comes to the playoffs, if there's going to be a little more leniency towards that, or if they're just it's going to be interesting to see that.
I've also
don't
seen
know.
a lot of intentional balks so far during spring training. Dodgers pitcher, can't remember his name. He did one where I can't remember who did it. I watched it quick on Twitter. It was he had a batter. He had a guy on second, and he had to keep coming set, but he didn't like coming set where he was with the clock, and it kept running out on him. And like he's pitching he's keep coming, and he's like, nope, screw it. He just taps his foot a few times on the thing and just goes, points, go to third. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it with the clock. So that's where I think the batters can take advantage of it. If they can learn how to get in that pitcher's head and use that clock and like focus, like, oh, I got a guy on, I have to keep checking. Now wait, I'm at 6 seconds. Oh no, and like run out of time. I think they can swing it the other way.
Well, exactly
right.
what you said. I mean, just like I said about the rhythm of a pitcher. Well, what if you're out of rhythm? What if you can't throw a strike? We've seen relievers come in and thrown 8 straight balls, right? Like you got to have that time to kind of recoup. Figure out what's going on, because most of it when you're pitching, you can't hit the strike zone. These guys can hit the strike zone. It's just a mental thing. But now you don't have time to just like catch up with yourself and try to get that rhythm back. So if you're out of rhythm, it works the same way. If you're in rhythm, then it's really good for you. If you're out of rhythm, it's gonna be hard to get back into it.
And to kind of go off what you said too, like being able to check the runner. How many times do you see people check the runner, throw to first?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that as much now. And with the bigger bases, we're going to see more bases stolen. And that could be exciting. That could add, an exciting factor to the game. And
I wonder if
really,
Kershaw's gonna have to stop doing the long.
some people are gonna have to change their wind up. It's going to be.
There was a compilation video of pitchers with different windups now. Like I think it was like 6 or 7 guys that had completely different. They had to change their whole way. Like they've pitched, and you think they've probably been pitching that way since high school. Like, and they just had to change their whole form because of this rule, because it takes too long.
DeGrom's got kind of a long windup too, if he can ever get healthy, because he's hurt again, and I can say that now and hate on it because he doesn't play for the Mets anymore. He took the money and went to the frickin' Texas Rangers, even though they're.
The Rangers, they paid Seager. They're just not going to be good. They just
they've got a couple good players. Andrew, do you have any opinion on the pitch clock?
I'm kind of right down the middle. Obviously, I don't watch that or haven't watched that much baseball, so I don't have as much. I guess I'm not too familiar with baseball without a play clock, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference for me. I do like. I do think it can go. I mean, multiple ways. I like Jordan's point on how. Would you say that it would benefit the pitchers more because they can get in a rhythm?
Right.
I didn't think about that because batters do step out and they can throw a pitcher off rhythm. But if
They do that
you're
intentionally too, to try to get the pitcher out of a rhythm, try to,
Mhm.
get them in their head. Because again, pitching is mostly mental.
right,
At that point, it's mostly mental.
yeah, and I was thinking like yes, that's an aspect of it, but also what if you're a pitcher that you like to take your time with it? You're slower, your rhythm's slower because I mean everybody goes at their own pace. So I feel like it's going to be very player based, and like you mentioned with the windups, different forms and stuff. Players are going to have to, which these guys they're top of their game. They're the best in the world, so they'll definitely make adjustments where they need to. But I just think it's going to vary based on player. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it changes the game and if it makes really a whole lot of difference. And the MLB is a league that if they look at it at the end of the year and they don't like what it's done, that they'll change it. But we'll see. I'm open to it. I'm open to
I
see
think
what
they've
it
got a lot.
does.
I think the MLB's got a lot of work to do, but I think
Yeah,
at least they're listening. I mean,
It sounds
it's a
like
sport.
they're making a lot of changes though. Like they're
They are.
trying at least.
And like
Hey, did
Austin
you
said, I
see?
don't know if they're changing the right things
Yeah,
specifically, but at least they're listening to the concerns of the fans and they're trying something.
Yeah.
So I mean
I
that's
want.
that's something that a lot of leagues can't say.
Did you see
Start.
the way that they're getting around the shift rule?
Mm-mm.
They're like
Uh,
moving an outfielder over into like they're just saying piss on right field or left field, depending on which side it is. It's generally a left-handed batter, but they'll just pull that outfielder and over and play him in the grass between first and second.
so they're shifting
So
an
just
outfielder instead of an
they're
infielder.
shifting an outfielder.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically if you hit it over there, whatever, it'll be fine. So
Yeah.
so they're still doing it. It'll be fun to see if players start trying to hit it oppo to take advantage of that. And you,
A lot of those
I-
guys can't. They can't.
yeah, a
That's
lot
the
of them just
problem.
can't just pull hitters.
I knew
So
so
Yeah.
many people in the traveling league growing up that just couldn't hit to right field
yeah,
as right-handed batters. They just
Yeah.
literally were useless. Like we'd do BP and like we'd put 7 guys on the line in left field, and you just stand there and you just be shaking balls. You had nobody else anywhere else because that's just where they hit. Like
the question is how if teams are doing this, they've been preparing for this as a reaction to still being able to kind of use a shift. So how many guys have been actually in the lab trying to work on hitting it oppo?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see because like I said, even as somebody who coached high school baseball, that was something that we tried to do is have a period of time during batting practice where you had to hit it backside. So how much have they been focusing on that? How much have they been preparing for the opportunity to have that
Mm-hmm.
absent left fielder or absent right fielder? So
I
it'll be
actually like
interesting to see.
canceling out the shift though. I never really liked the shift that much. And I mean the main reason I didn't think there was anything really wrong with it, but every single time the Dodgers would go into a shift, they always hit it right where no one is. I'm like, well, why do you keep shifting? Because they're hitting it right where, the shortstop's supposed to be. And if he was where he's supposed to be, it'd be an easy out. So I never really liked it that much, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, let's transition to our predictions. Starting in the AL East, unfortunately, I have the Yankees. They won it last year. They were far and away the best team in that division. The Blue Jays had a decent record. The Orioles showed some spark.
Came on strong, yeah.
Yeah, they came on strong. They still too little too late, but I mean they're the best team in that
Yeah.
division. The pitching, Garrett Cole, even with Nestor Cortez,
Severino.
Severino, and they re-signed Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a hole at shortstop, which will be interesting to see what they do there. If they go with the young guy or if they go with that dude with a weird hyphenated last name whose name escapes me currently.
Isaiah Kiner Falefa.
Yeah, that's it. Him. It'll be interesting to see, but I think that they're pretty much undebatable as the best team in that division.
Yeah, I don't think there's any
I
question.
think
I've
we
got
have that.
I've got the Yankees winning it too, and I actually
I've
threw
got the
records
Yankees as well.
as well. Yeah, I threw records in here as well. I've got the Yankees winning 104 games this year, best record in the American League. I just don't think there's much competition. I think the Blue Jays are going to be a lot better than this year. I mean, I know they made a good run last year, but I think they're going to be really good. I think the Rays might take a step back, but I think it's going to be a battle between the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays or the Yankees will take it by probably 10, 12 games, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
Basically,
Austin.
literally have exactly the same. I have Rays falling off, Yankees win it easily. Blue Jays honorable mention.
Are we ever going to argue about anything, Austin? Or are we just going to
We're not
agree on
arguing this episode. It's not
I do-
wait.
I too have the Rays falling off, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But Andrew, you said you went with the Yankees too.
Yeah, I went with the Yankees as well. Apparently they have the best odds to win it as far as Vegas is concerned. So if you're a gambler,
Yeah.
but yeah, I went
Yeah.
And
Yankees.
the Red Sox just aren't very good, and they lost Xander Bogaerts. So I mean,
They're rebuilding.
they're rebuilding. I'm sure they'll be back in a few years. But AL Central, I'll let Austin. I'll let you start.
I would love to take both Centrals. I have the Guardians taking the Central, and I think that's not even. I don't even think that's really going to be any argument with either of you two. Again, I think we're going to be right on the same page. And then I also have the Twins being a great team that's going to compete for it, but they're going to lose out to the Guardians.
Yeah, I have the
Yeah.
Guardians as well.
I've got the Guardians as well, but I have the White Sox being their biggest competition in that division. So
It could be fun. Tim Anderson's a fun player to watch, and he's a solid player. Andrew, who'd you go with in the Central? AL
I got the
Central?
Guardians. Yeah,
You got the
Guardians
Guardians
as
too.
well. Yeah,
I know we're
It's a
going
weird
chalk here.
it's a weaker division, but they
Yeah.
are easily the best team in that division. Easy.
Yeah. In the AL West, I think the easy way to go here is the Astros because they won the World Series last year. They won the most games in baseball last year, but I hate them. So I picked the Mariners because I like the Mariners better than them, and I like J-Rod, and I think that they're fun to watch. So piss on the trash can beaters.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pick the Cheaters either. I picked the Mariners. I do have the Cheaters making it in as a wild card team, but I think that
I do too.
I think the Mariners and the Cheaters are both going to be 100-win teams. I've got the Mariners winning 102 and the Cheaters winning 100. So, but I've got the Mariners taking that division.
Yeah.
We literally have nothing to argue about this one. I have Mariners with the Astros making the wild
I
card.
thought that was going to be a dark horse pick for me, and now everyone's taking them.
No, I
Yeah,
put
no,
that down
yeah.
with confidence just because I hate the asterisks.
I
Yeah,
have
so-
I have the Diamondbacks and Angels as honorable mentions, though, right? They both they're there, right?
Well, the Diamondbacks are in the NL.
yeah, they are.
Did I wrote in the wrong section? That's my bad.
Okay, I was like,
We're good.
no, actually, yeah. We'll talk about the Diamondbacks in a minute, but yeah, I actually think
We will.
I just don't understand why the Angels aren't good.
They
Like, I
have
know
two of
that-
the best players in baseball.
No, they probably have the two best players in
in
baseball.
baseball.
I don't understand, but I mean, they don't have anything else. Their ownership is absolute garbage, and Shohei Ohtani should be a Dodger at some point soon. So yeah,
Steve Cohen and his checkbook might be making a run at him next year, so we'll
It's
see.
fine. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a bidding
As a
war.
Browns
Andrew, did
fan-
you take the cheaters?
I did take the Cheaters. I got the
Oh my
Astros. I don't know a lot. I don't know the story behind the Cheaters. I don't know that whole story, so you guys will have to inform me later. But
Stole signs in
They
the
stole
World
signs from the
Series.
Dodgers in the World Series.
well,
And they bang trash cans.
Yeah,
Well, they're actually tied with the Yankees in Vegas as far as the odds. So, and they're coming off a win. I didn't know they won last year, so I got the Astros. Yeah.
I mean, they're,
If I'm picking with my head, I'm probably picking the Astros to win that division, but
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
even
refuse.
I don't even know if I am though, because I love the Mariners. They're a young team. They're one of those teams that reminds me of like Sacramento in the NBA. They're fun.
Yeah,
I love them. They made that little run in the playoffs last year. I mean, they were fun, and I just think they're going to get better. And I think the Astros, they're due for a step back at some point, and I think this is about that time.
I do have them making it in the wild card as well as the Blue Jays. My third wild card team is the Baltimore Orioles. I want to see them ride that wave from last year and make that run.
They
Do
were
what?
literally like I think after the All-Star break, they had the best record in baseball. from there
Yeah,
to the season.
they only came up a few games short.
And they had the worst record in baseball going into the All-Star break, and they almost made the playoffs. That's insane.
And they've got one of the top prospects in the game, and Adley Rutschman, that they're finally letting play. That they've called him up last year, and when you let the young guys play, you just might as well play it out. And they went on a run, and I hope they continue to do so because it's a fun story.
Yeah. I guess NL East is next.
Indeed.
I know you love the Mets as the resident Mets fan here.
I didn't pick the Mets.
I picked the Braves. The reason I picked the Braves is because I think they're built more for the longevity of a regular season than the Mets are. Because the Mets, I mean, they're going to have their injuries. That's been the plague of them for the past few years. So
don't have DeGrom anymore, though.
Yeah, they don't have DeGrom anymore, which that's going to take away some of the injury bug. But I just think the Braves are a little bit better built for a long regular season than the Mets are. I do have the Mets coming in as my wild card 2. And I think it's going to be a close race. I mean, literally, they had the same exact record last year. It just came down to, And so, yeah, I've got the Braves. I got them winning 98 games. I got the Mets right behind them at 96. So I think it's going to be a really close race, but I've got the Braves.
Okay. Austin?
I got the Braves winning the NL East, and then I have the Mets missing the playoffs due to a extra wild card game matchup against the Phillies. Game 163, they're going to play it. They're not 163. They're going to play the extra game. They're going to lose. They're not making the playoffs. Phillies are.
Woo! That's fine. You can. I'm going to save my pick for last. Andrew, who'd you pick here?
I did pick the Mets. I think I'm leaning. Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards being a Braves fan just because they're local and they're probably the only team I would be able to go see if I was to go watch a game. So that's where I'm leaning right now. I'm gonna wait a few weeks and kind of make my final decision. Hopefully soon. See who's winning. See who's on the longest win streak, and we'll probably go that route. But
that's how it works.
But no, in the East,
don't be an Astros. That's the Padres and the Astros are off limits for you.
All right, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But yeah, I've got the Mets in the East. They're as of February 14th, they were the top MLB power rankings leader. So I've got them right now.
And, I'm a Mets fan. Yeah, big Francisco Lindor guy. Jordan, me and you literally spent a whole summer at Hunter Wright Park watching the Kingsport Mets play. Saw Wilmer Flores. We've seen guys like DeGrom and Jose Reyes and David Wright come up through that single A system. Unfortunately, it's no longer affiliated with MLB, but I'm a Mets fan. We spent a ton of money this offseason. We've got Kodai Senga, who's come from Japan. We re-signed Brandon Nimmo. We've got, Jeff McNeil, who won the Silver Slugger last year. Francisco Lindor, he's a perennial all-star. We've got Pete Alonso. But I didn't pick the Mets to win the division either. But I didn't pick the Braves either. I've got the Phillies. The Phillies made a run. They went to the World Series last year. They had a lead in the World Series, and they lost it. But they've also signed Trey Turner. They've signed Taijuan Walker, who's a former Met, who was an all-star a couple years ago. They got Craig Kimbrell, and they got Greg Soto, who is an all-star closer. So you're adding these guys to a team who got on a run and was hot at the right time. So I have the Phillies winning this division. And I have the Mets and the Braves both making the playoffs in the wild card as the 2 and the 3. But I think Phillies. So everybody
divisions in baseball. Just
and
just
then
the top.
Just got the Marlins.
Yeah, you got the Marlins and the Nationals, who will be sitting at the very bottom of the base.
The Nationals are not even. They don't even count as a team right now because
they're like the
still rebuilding.
I just think that it's going to be it could be any of those 3 teams, and it's going to be a really fun race between those 3 teams. But I also think injuries play a huge aspect into that because, you think about the Mets, and Francisco Lindor missed a lot of time last season with injuries. If that happens again, it's all about runs, right? And I just don't. I think injuries are going to play a big part.
He didn't miss that much time. I mean, he had a few weird.
He missed down the stretch though. That was the
big
thing.
He shut his hand on a car door at one point. But I mean,
he missed several games down the stretch. I don't think it was the last couple games, but maybe maybe 10 games remaining or something. He missed 3 or 4 there. So
we just did Mets stuff. We had the lead in the division all year long, and then we let the Braves come in and take it. But I don't think that's going to be a factor this year because I think the Phillies are going to take it. But that brings us to the NL Central. I hate this team, but I picked them. I picked the Cardinals. Uh, I think Paul Goldschmidt is not the best first baseman in the National League. I think it's Pete Alonso. I'm biased, but I also do not like Nolan Arenado because he's kind of a turd.
I think it's Freddie Freeman. That's just
But it's not 2011. If it was 2011, it could be Freddie Freeman. But I got love for Freddie Freeman, but especially since he's not a Brave anymore. But I have the Cardinals winning this division. I do know that they lost the greatest catcher of all time, but I still think that they're the best team in this division. It could be competitive. It could be very interesting, but that's who I went with.
Yeah, I think it's the worst division in baseball. I honestly do, and I don't think that. Sorry, Austin. I know that you're a Brewers guy over there, but I just think it's the worst division in baseball. You have a division that has the Reds and the Pirates in it. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually have kind of my dark horse pick is going to win this division. I've got the Cubs winning it.
I've got the
Only
Cubs as well.
I've got them getting 90 wins, but I think they just made a lot of good moves. They got Dansby Swanson. They got my boy Bellinger. Maybe he'll get going. Maybe he won't. Didn't they get, is it Jameson Taillon? They got him as a pitcher. So they made some good moves. And I just think that this division is there for the taking. I mean, Milwaukee's always going to sit at 500 because that's what they do. They're always right there in the middle of the pack. They might sneak into the playoffs. They might just miss it. But either way, we know they're going to lose in the first round if it comes down to it. So, but I do think the Cardinals they're always underachieving.
Yeah.
I have the Brewers in as my wild card 3, and I think the Cardinals are probably going to sit maybe a couple games behind them. But I just think that there's always this hype about the Cardinals, and they always underachieve every single year. And I think this is the year it kind of catches up to them.
I have the no surprise here. Brewers winning the NL Central.
What?
Who would have thought? With the pitching staff they have, as long as they stop pissing off Corbin Burns, I think we'll be okay. I mean, we have the pitching staff to rule the NL Central. Nobody else has what we have in pitching. And as long as Dylan Williams doesn't punch walls while he's drinking, we will be very, very solid. And we brought in William Contreras. We have solid catchers now. We brought up Garrett Mitchell, which I don't know if you've watched any of spring training of the Brewers, but this kid has been electric. 2 home runs in his first debut game. His wife, Haley Cruz, very, very, very prominent softball player, very attractive. We give him bonus points for that. And he's just a stud, and I am loving him coming up. He probably is going to be one of my favorite players on this roster because he's just every at bat he's electric. And I think we are going to take the NL Central. I have the Cardinals as my wild card 1, so I don't think they're going to be far off. I think it's going to be one of those ones where we go down to like, oh, they're up by 1 game, we're up by 1 game, and it's half game. It's just the NL Central crap where we just go the whole time, where it's just constantly swinging back and forth.
Then who are you going to lose to in the first round of the playoffs?
The Dodgers.
Probably. Yeah.
All right. Andrew, you said you went with the Cubs here.
Yeah, I went with Jordan on the Cubs on this one.
What was your rationale?
Well, see, in the spring training, they seem to do pretty good. So I know that you don't base a lot of the decisions on that, but that's my reasoning for the Cubs. But
And I can get behind it too with signing Dansby Swanson and getting Cody Bellinger. That's 2 prominent all-star players that you've added to your roster. So I mean, baseball seems to just be better whenever the Cubs are good. At least good enough to like get to the playoffs and disappoint their fans. Except for the 1 year when they actually won. But so it could be interesting. 3 different answers there. So shockingly, nobody picked the Reds or the Pirates because they're both terrible.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's very shocking. So like I said, NL West, like I said, I have the Mets and the Braves as the wild card 2 and 3 because I have the Dodgers being my wild card 1 and the Padres winning the West. Just because they started getting on a roll last year, and then there was that cursed video of all those fans like doing that's what's in. Y'all, that was so cringy. After they,
everything.
Yeah, I know. But they have a full season with Juan Soto. They get Fernando Tatis back. You've signed Xander Bogaerts. You've got the pitching staff that you've got. They're just a very overall impressive team. You look at them on paper, and I think that they have to be a favorite to make a run. So I've got the Padres.
I don't think there's any question they're probably the most talented team in baseball. If you just look at the players they have, you look at Machado, and you got Juan Soto, and you got Fernando Tatis, but I do have the Padres winning the division. I think them and the Dodgers will both win over 100 games. Dodgers will take the wild card one spot. The one thing that I will say, and maybe it's just bias, but the thing that would worry me if I'm a Padres fan is leadership. What kind of leadership do you have? Because you have a bunch of guys that's in that dugout that all have huge egos, right? Like Machado, Soto, Tatis, all these guys. Even is Blake Snell still there? I guess he is. Another ego guy, right? Like, so do they have the leadership to just kind of bring it all together and make it a team effort instead of all individual stuff? Because I think that's where they kind of run into problems. Even before they got Soto, I think it was kind of a battle between Tatis and Machado, who was going to have better stats instead of being a team trying to win the games. So I think that's going to be an issue, but I think that they're just too talented to pick against them. And I hate myself for doing it, but give me the Padres.
Yeah.
I have Padres as well, and it's the same reason. They're stacked. They literally just have stars through the whole lineup. And if any team is, I know this is really you're gonna hate this, Jordan, but they're entertaining. They got these big personalities. If anybody is to like hit a gritty coming around third base after hitting a home run, it's gonna be one of the guys on that lineup, and that's what kids want to watch. That's the exciting stuff. I do have the Dodgers being right there. They're going to be the wild card 2, which would put them in my matchup against my Brewers, which would then
would then probably end your season. So
why we have this in here. But yeah, I think Padres. You can't really argue them. They're just too good, too stacked.
Andrew?
I went with the Dodgers, again, based off spring training mainly. And I was trying to help Jordan out. They're winning right now to the White Sox right now, so yeah, I'm looking out for you guys. I'm really rooting for you all.
I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah. So that kind of brings us down to our World Series prediction here. I went chalk, but I'm going rematch of last year. But the Phillies are beating the Astros this time. I've got the Phillies winning it all. They're going to break the curse for the city of Philly and open it up so the curse is already broken when the Eagles win the Super Bowl next year.
You mean the Cowboys? Wait, that won't happen. All right, so you went with the Phillies. I actually drew out my ALCS and NLCS. ALCS, I've got the Yankees over the Mariners in 7. I think that'd be a great series. But again, I just think that I'm high on the Mariners. I think they're going to have a great season. Yankees, just too much talent. The NLCS, James is going to love me. I've got the Mets over the Padres in 5. I think when you look at star power and pitching is huge, it's hard to compare to what the Mets have. I mean, yes, you could talk the Brewers. The Brewers could easily match what the Mets have got going on. But I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be tough to match their pitching in the playoffs. And it goes back to the
Subway Series.
Huh?
You have a Subway Series.
I have a Subway Series. I have the Yankees and the Mets in the World Series. And again, like you said, it's chalk, but I've got the Yankees. Got the Yankees in 6. It's going to happen eventually. I guess that's my reasoning. It's going to happen eventually, and I feel like this year is the year for them.
Yeah.
I have Yankees, Padres. It's just written. It's written in stone. It's that Yankees team. They're going to do it. They're going to go exactly like what you were just talking about. Too talented. Padres team, I think they get it together. I don't think leadership's going to be the problem. I think they're just going to be statistically just you can't fight with it.
Yeah.
And Padres will Yankees beat the Padres. That's it. It's going to be there it is.
I would buy a Yankees jersey if that happened. If anybody beats the Padres,
don't do that.
If anybody beats the Padres in the World Series, I'm buying a jersey. I don't care.
Oh, but it's the
future Yankees fan. Right.
As long as Machado's trying, which, by the way, did y'all see that contract Machado got?
Oh, that's so dumb. They signed him into his 40s.
You realize that in a couple years, he's going to just be a DH. They're going to be paying him out the ass to be a designated hitter.
Yeah.
Like, he's already, 31, 32 years?
31, I think.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Anyways, Andrew, what do you got for the World Series?
I got the Yankees and the Mets. Yankees in 6.
You picked the same thing as Jordan.
I literally have right here, Yankees over Mets in 6.
I thought you said in 5.
No, I had Mets over Padres in 5.
That's what I heard. Oh, yeah.
I don't want to go to the World Series if we're going to lose to them. Gross.
Just give you another reason to hate the Yankees even more. I think it's going to be great. I think it's wide open, too. Like, you look at division divisions, like the NL East, like you're talking about, the Braves, Phillies, and Mets are all right there. The NL West, we always forget about the Giants, who had a phenomenal year 2 years ago. So kind
Yeah.
of dropped off last year, but it could be a good race between the Padres, Dodgers, and the Giants out there. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Andrew, it's a good season for you to step in on. I think it's gonna be one of the more exciting baseball seasons.
I hope so, man. I'm excited to learn more. I hate not knowing about it, especially if we're going to be talking about it. So I'm excited. It's just going to be a lot of work. I feel like because there's a lot of games, a lot of players, a lot of teams. Like it's going to be a lot of
Just
work, but I think it'll be fun. So
try to designate it. They have Sunday night baseball every Sunday at 7 o'clock. Just
Yeah.
flip that on once a week.
Yeah.
Which is
and
Sunday night baseball was a part of my childhood, man. I remember fighting going to bed because I just wanted to watch the baseball game. So
yeah,
so looking forward to getting back into the baseball season, and we'll also talk a little college baseball. The baseballs are finally rolling; they're starting to look good. We got our star transfer from Kansas, Maui Ahuna, who is back in the lineup after a little scuff up with the NCAA, but looking good there. But ending our baseball segment, that will take us to our first break of our show, and we will come back from the break and we will talk a little hockey, as they say in hockey. Let's do that hockey.
Let's do that hockey.
All right, welcome back. We're going to get into a little hockey talk here with the trade deadline is behind us. Well, it actually comes to an end today, I believe. The NHL has seen some very interesting trades. One that a lot of people are talking about is Patrick Kane, career Chicago Blackhawk, being traded to the New York Rangers.
AKA James' favorite player.
I hate Patrick Kane for many reasons that I'm not going to get into. I've said very questionable things to people in Patrick Kane jerseys in Bridgestone Arena. I hate him. And I hate, like Jordan, like you said during our break, I hate that he's with the Rangers because Artemi Panarin is such a fun player to watch. And it's easy to root for the Rangers. You know, Shesterkin's a man and in between the pipes. But now I have to hate him. And I've seen people on ESPN who are like, oh, the Rangers are going to, somebody said they're going to win the Stanley Cup now because they have Patrick Kane. He's not the same Patrick Kane. If you look at his numbers,
years old. He's 34 years old.
That's literally in my notes. If you look at his numbers right now, he's tied for 98th in the league in points. He has a plus minus of -27. He's 34. He's been -2 in both games the Rangers have played with him. He has gotten exactly 0 points, and they've lost both of those games. So, I mean, obviously he's going to have to figure it out. It just kind of looks like Panarin's been kind of forcing the relationship between the two of them. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but I hate him, and I hope that he continues to suck.
He just seems to be playing a little bit slower now. I mean, obviously it has to do something with age, but I think it's just the name thing. I mean, all these NHL analysts and things just think it's still like 2012 Patrick Kane. It's just not. It's not the same guy. Obviously, he has very good knowledge for the game, but I just think that he's not really the goal scorer he once was.
When was he a part? When was the last time he was a part of a team that was worth a crap?
I mean, the Blackhawks have been the basement of that division for 5 years now, at least.
We broke them in 2017 and we swept them, and they haven't been
the 8th seed, and they were the one.
they haven't been worth a crap since then.
I just think that does it make the Rangers a more of a contender? Sure, because it probably adds depth. You get to put them on a line, then you get to move kind of everybody else down a line, makes every other, all 4 lines stronger. But he's not like an actual difference maker. Whereas for me, the big trade, because I love him, is Matthias Ekholm. The main reason I think that Ekholm was a massive trade is because there's one glaring issue in Edmonton all the time, and it's defense. They can score goals, and they can do, all of that, but they can't play defense, so they need a big defender who can also, by the way, score goals. So I think that's a big move for Edmonton, and I actually think, contrary to Patrick Kane to the Rangers, I think Ekholm to the Oilers makes them way more of a favorite for the Stanley Cup than Kane to the Rangers does for New York.
I agree. I agree with you there. Ekholm's a big get for them, and it was weird to see him in that jersey the other night.
It was.
It's a solid ad. They needed a point shooter, and they need from a shooter from the point, and also like a good defensive player. They just have none of it.
Yeah. And Ekholm can do that. He hasn't had a great year in Nashville. It's been very kind of unlike him. But when you play on a team with Draisaitl and McJesus,
Mhm.
you can get the puck at the point and let her rip because you're not going to be the point of focus.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you play with guys like Roman Yossi, you can make that argument too, but they're not those two. The fact that the
Not
two of them
drawing.
are on the same team is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's kind of
They're not
crazy.
drawing.
I was a little bit shocked about the Predators making as many moves as they did because I mean we talk about how the Preds suck and everything. They're 5 points out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they
5
are.
points. I think what they're probably thinking is not like, oh, we can, they can make the playoffs if they didn't make all these moves. They could have made the playoffs, but could they realistically won a round and made it to the Stanley Cup? No, no. I mean, so I think they're selling not for the fact of like, oh, we could have gotten to the playoffs. They're selling because there's no chance of us actually winning at all. But it still sort of shocked me just all the changes they made. I mean, Tanner Jeannot, and I know you're going to talk about that in a minute, but
Yeah,
like another young guy that you just ship off, right? I mean, you got a haul for him. Don't get me wrong. You're building
Yeah.
for the future the right way. It was a little bit surprising to me, especially when you keep guys like Roman Yossi and Philip Forsberg behind.
you can't trade. But you just signed Forsberg, and
No, you can't trade them, but at the same time, why are you rebuilding around two guys who are two of the best players in their positions in the NHL?
but the
I
thing,
don't
but
know.
the thing. Go ahead, Austin.
I don't know if I'd call it rebuilding around them. I think they're just more structural pieces for the entertainment factor of the NHL. You need to keep your pieces to keep butts in seats.
True.
And that's the point. Like you can't lose a figure like Forsberg to that area and Nashville. Like didn't he just this week bought in with Giannis to
For MSC.
Yep.
Naturally,
So he's a staple in that community. You can't send that kind of away. It's not rebuilding around it. It's more just keeping your faces to keep. It's like how long for my Bolts, it's like how long they kept Martin St. Louis and LeCavalier, even though they were old as dirt. Like they weren't doing anything, but they're kept because remember when 2004 when they won the Stanley Cup? Heck yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, Philip Forsberg and Roman Yossi are still relatively young guys. And I mean,
Yeah.
they've got, they're right in the prime of their career. So I just hope that whatever moves the Preds are making moving forward is going to be not like we're going to be really good in 3 to 4 years. I hope we're going to be really good next year because you have to, when you have those two guys, and UC Saros too. I mean, he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. And so when you have those kind of guys that are young and they're in their prime, I think you have to build around them immediately rather than trying to build for the future.
Yeah. And that was a big topic of conversation this week too, with us selling, we've sent away Ekholm and Granlund and Jeannot. But some people were calling for Saros to be traded. They say if we got that much back for Tanner Jeannot, what can we get for Saros? It doesn't matter
It doesn't
because
matter.
you have a top 5 goalie in the NHL.
Yeah.
You don't get rid of him, and he's 24.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
you
no
don't-
way to get rid of Saros. That's like
No.
being in the NFL and trading a quarterback, just to give you a little reference, Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, like you don't trade a 24-year-old superstar quarterback, so you don't
No.
trade a 24-year-old superstar goalie. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no,
So-
and it'd be like if the Bears decided that they wanted to ship Justin Fields off somewhere, and that would be stupid. But the
Mhm.
funny thing, like you said, is the Preds do just sit 5 points back of Colorado in the wild card. They're 8 points back of Edmonton right now with 4 games in hand. They've won 5 of their last 6 games.
They won both games after they traded away Jeannot and Ekholm, and they won back-to-back games. So
And they played in that one loss that they've had in their last 6 games was to the Penguins, and it was a really good game. The Penguins scored a late one, and they got an empty netter. But kind of like what Austin said is with these young guys that we're letting play, we have Luke Evangelista who got his first start, and he absolutely decked Evgeny Malkin. Like guys like that who are excited, who are young, who want to play. You've got a young guy in Juuso Parssinen who is a star in the making.
Yeah.
The guy who I've been screaming from the mountaintop that we should be calling up, Philip Tomasino, who scored a power play goal last night. Who
I don't know
just
why they haven't
absolutely,
called him up beforehand. I mean, I just
I don't know either.
I don't
Because
get it.
he was just burying goals in the OHL a couple of years ago. And
I think something that you brought up though, it makes a lot of sense. It's just like the young guys bring this sort of energy, right? That you talked about Ekholm not having a great season. Maybe he's getting complacent because he doesn't see where this team is headed. Whereas these young guys don't care. They get their chance. They're going to give everything they have.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the management was thinking about. We're going to get rid of these guys. We're going to bring in this electricity. We're going to bring in this firepower, and just these guys that are going to go all out and see if that changes the atmosphere a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we refer to that energy in the future as the Reed Blankenship effect. It's just a no-name guy getting brought into a position. He's young and just starts throwing his body around.
Yeah.
So it's
And,
what I'm going to
we've
refer
seen
to.
it. Yeah, we've seen it, and who knows? It'd be hilarious if we made these moves and somehow made our way. It wouldn't be great, but like in the long run, if they find a way into the playoffs, like they're probably not going to do anything. But I like what I've seen from the Preds since they've made these moves. Is these young, hungry guys who want to come and make a name. Like let the guys who want to make a name for themselves do exactly that. It does hurt to lose a guy like Tanner Jeannot. Who had a great season last year. His productivity has not been anywhere near what it was last year this season, but he's an exciting player. He will fight literally anybody. He's proven that. He likes to fight. He wins most of those fights. But when you get the King's ransom, you get all those picks. You can't help but make that move. And, it's good for both teams. The Bolts get a young, exciting player, and the Preds get all those picks. And, if the Bolts find their way into the Stanley Cup this year, I'll be pulling for them so Jeannot can get a ring. But I think I like what we did, and I think part of that has to do with the announcement this week that David Poyle is stepping down as our owner, or as our GM rather, and Barry Trotz is taking his place. I think Trotzy's got his fingerprints all over this. He's like, hey, you've been buyers at the deadline the past few years, and what has it done? We've sent guys like Kevin Fiala away and Victor Arvidsson in the offseason, letting him go and trying to be buyers and not really making that much noise.
Mm-hmm.
Just blow it up and let these young guys do what they're here to do. Stop wasting them in Milwaukee.
I missed that 2017 team.
Me too, dude. That
Such
team
a
was
good
so much fun.
Such a
So
good
much
team.
fun.
That
But
team was stacked. It really was.
It was stacked.
we weren't supposed to be there though.
Yeah. Well, that was like the breakout of. Well, Arvidsson got hurt before the Stanley Cup final, didn't he?
Johansson did.
Johansson was the one. Okay, yeah. But that was like the breakout of Philip Forsberg was right there in that playoff run, because it wasn't like he wasn't anything to write home about before that. But then all of a sudden he just blew up. And same with Roman Josi. I mean, he was huge in that playoff run. But yeah, I'd love to see us make it to the playoffs, but I do think this is just a year of trying to figure things out for the Preds right now.
Yeah, and also, especially with Joey going on like the injured reserve, like he's done for the long term. Yeah. Like, so you might as well give these young guys an opportunity. Don't waste guys like Matthias Ekholm. Like, if you can get the picks like we got with Jeannot. Granlund has been very, very, very inconsistent this year. So get what you can get and build around what you already have and let these young guys do their thing. Since we did trade Tanner Jeannot to the Bolts, Austin, what have you seen in him?
So far, but just to add in quick about the Preds, while you have that young core and you're staying winning, like it's awesome to see that young core win and also have all those picks for the future, because like you're building around something that has that energy, and if you can build that locker room and make it something, like grow the youth to be like what the Bolts had, and now we are just feel like we're just moving around money every year and somehow making it work, but we'll ignore that.
Cheating the cap.
Yes. Jeannot on the Bolts has fell into his line perfectly, and he in 3 games already has 2 points, 2 assists. Like he fits right into his little slot. Think about this: he had 9 assists through the first games. With the whole other section of the season, was it 52 games so far we played? What is it? Something like that.
Something like that.
6,
yeah. Some down those lines, and he had 9 assists. He's already been 3 games with his line. He just fits in. He just fits in well with the shooters he's around. So I love it. Love to see it, and you guys can be happy he fits in well.
I'm happy that he fits in well. I saw, his introduction and his, him in the blue jersey. It's weird to see, but the only thing that I have against the Bolts is that you guys have Corey Perry on your team, and he sucks, and I hate him. But as long as you have him on your team, you might not win because he's cursed. But it is what it is there. Andrew, you have anything you want to put in here? I know you don't hockey literally at all.
Not much. I know you mentioned Patrick Kane. Just from what I've heard about him, he doesn't seem like a role model by any means. So
he's a dirtbag.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the Preds will be fine next year. I'm probably gonna be diving in as a Preds fan. I'd like to go watch them in Nashville with you guys. So if we
We'll
can
go.
make that happen, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll
But
go.
I will say that the best thing about this season, even if the Preds aren't very good, is the Blackhawks are the worst team in the NHL yet again.
Mhm.
So I'm very
We beat
happy.
them last night.
I mean, they literally have 47 points this season. So on the
Good.
contrary, the Bruins
Oh
out
my
here,
God.
out here setting records. They have 103 points. They could literally break the points record. They're on pace to do it.
Yeah,
That's
they're unreal. That brings me into our next topic, which is Stanley Cup predictions. The Bruins are far and away the best team in the NHL this year. When you get into the playoffs, you never know what can happen. A team like Tampa Bay can give them a series, but I don't see anybody. I haven't seen anything this year to prove to me they have single digit regulation losses like that they're going to the Stanley Cup. I have them winning. The West is wide open
wide
now.
open. Yeah.
I think there's I think I counted 4 or 5 teams in the East that would be first in the West right now.
Yes.
It's
The leader in the West,
lesser,
Dallas Stars, right now with 81 points.
right? So it's very up in the air. So I think in a year where it's up in the air, I think a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl find their way back into the play. They find their way into the Stanley Cup final, but I do have them losing to the Bruins.
I don't even know why I write stuff down anymore because my pick always gets taken before it's my turn. Um, yeah, I think that the addition of Matthias Ekholm is it's. I'm not saying he's like the best defender out there. I'm just saying the way he fits in with the Oilers is way too strong. Yeah, I've got the Oilers and the Bruins, but the thing that was to me was when you talk about last year, you talk about the Avalanche winning it all. It was just the firepower of the Avalanche. It was just impossible to match. I mean, McKinnon and Landeskog and everything. Like, it was just unstoppable. That's why I'm picking the Oilers to beat the Bruins in the finals because, I mean, you got to give me. It's Connor McDavid. He's the best player in the world. Like,
Yeah.
when it comes down to a 7-game series to take home a Stanley Cup, I don't know if anybody's gonna be able to stop Connor McDavid. I really don't. So I've got the Oilers over the Bruins.
Andrew, since you don't really hockey, we're happy to have you on the Preds fandom. But I'll pull some Connor McDavid highlights just for you to watch because he's the closest thing to Gretzky we'll ever see.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that. I'll definitely check that out because I need all the info and videos, knowledge I can get because I'm trying to soak up as much as I can. But
sure.
I have 2 predictions. One that says analytics, and then 2 says my heart.
Okay, so both.
So you're gonna pick the Liberty on one of them, okay?
The analytics one says Bruins Oilers, which I don't know why we even have group. We should just have group notes. We should just fill them in the drive
Seriously,
because
it's
honestly,
ridiculous. I thought picking the Oilers was like different. I thought I was like, oh, I'm going off on a whim here.
I did
Everybody,
too.
this whole episode has just been like that, and then it's Bolts Oilers, Bolts over Oilers. So either way, I have the East winning. So I don't actually understand why we even take notes. The Mariners are supposed to be our sleeper thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it just
dark horse
doesn't
too.
even. I don't even know anymore.
Well, like as I've told you, me and Austin have had this joke. Like in his phone, he has a brain next to his name because we have same brain disorder. But me and Jordan have had the same brain for like 20 years now, so it's not surprising to me that I told you would fit right in with us.
Again, when you talk about the NHL playoffs, it's kind of like baseball. You get hot, right? Like you have players who just get hot. I mean, you can't tell me Connor McDavid's not going to just blow the world up this playoffs. Like he's been so good this season. You give him a little help on defense.
And a dangerous thing about a team like the Oilers is, you have Connor McDavid, and if he has a down game, you got Leon Draisaitl, and he scores 100 points a year.
Yeah, him and McDavid both are always way up there in points. I will say, like, something that's kind of flying under the radar, and I don't know if y'all have really paid attention to this. The Ottawa Senators have been red hot lately, and they are creeping up into the playoff picture. And we know as Preds fans, it's all about just getting into the playoffs and being hot when you get into the playoffs. So I actually think they're a team that you might want to just watch out for. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They've won 5 in a row. They're now even on points with the Sabres for the last playoff spot. So it's kind of random because they've been bad for so long.
They have been since we went to the Stanley Cup Finals. That was the last time they were worth a crap because they were in the East
They
Finals
should have
with
beat Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. They should have. If they
And then
beat
we would've
Pittsburgh,
beat
we
Ottawa.
win the cup.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah. So Andrew, completely blind Stanley Cup prediction. Let's hear it.
Well, after hearing you guys, it sounds like the Bruins are the best team by far. So I'm gonna go with the Preds and the Penguins in the Stanley Cup. If that's even possible, I don't know at this point,
It
but
is possible.
It is. It's
Back
possible.
in
okay.
2017, so
Well, I got the Penguins over the Preds in 5. So
If
sorry.
you're gonna have us there, at least have us winning.
Why
Hey,
do
it doesn't
you
matter. It doesn't
We're
even matter
there.
if we could go to Broadway and just have the time of our lives again.
See,
because
that's what
there
I'm
was
talking
nothing-
about. That's
It
what
was
I'm talking
nothing
about.
like the Stanley Cup Finals downtown Nashville in 2017. Like that was being at that rooftop bar and that place feeling like it was about to collapse whenever
Yeah.
Philip Forsberg scored that goal. There's
Which-
nothing like it.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but you two were on the news for that, correct?
We threw.
We
he
were,
threw-
yeah.
You threw a catfish.
I
Yeah, he
did.
threw
Yeah.
it to me.
That's pretty
Well,
dope.
Yeah, we were on the live news. Maybe we can get that clip put in here if I send it to Jared. If he really work on those editing skills
We
here.
probably weren't like
Um,
in the mental state to actually be on the news, but we were on the news anyway.
And nobody knows.
I think we were in the perfect mental
Dangerous
state.
game.
But yeah, okay. So that'll end our NHL segment, and we will transition to our last segment, which is the NFL Combine. And I know that this guy's going to be on everybody's list of who impressed them, so I'm going to take him as I do because why not? Nolan Smith. I mean, my God. People forget that Nolan Smith was the best player on that defensive line before he got hurt. It wasn't Jalen Carter. It was Nolan Smith. The man ran a 4.3940. That's faster than Saquon Barkley. It's faster than Jalen Hyatt ran, which I was very surprised by. But he had a 41.5 inch vertical, which is better than DK Metcalf. I mean,
That's crazy.
good heavens.
Yeah, that's
He's
insane.
an absolute animal. So Nolan Smith really blew me away. There's another guy on my list that I had that Austin I know is on his list, but he's a Tennessee Volunteer. So it was nice to see Byron Young with the 4.4340 and the second best vertical behind Nolan Smith for defensive linemen. So those are the two that I want to outline, and I've got one more that I want to talk about, but I feel like we'll all probably talk about this guy too. So
I haven't paid that much attention to the NFL Combine. I've just kind of been following it on Twitter a little bit. I normally don't pay that much attention to it, to be honest. But one thing that's really stood out to me is Anthony Richardson. Like,
yep,
I think
That's what I
he
had.
killed
it
it,
is.
and on paper, he looks really good. Like he really does. I mean, his arm, speed, everything. But I just don't know how you can like watch his tape from Florida and be like, man, I want to take this guy in the top 5. I just don't see it. I mean, I understand all the intangibles are there and everything. I really don't see it. But yeah, I think what we're all going to talk about is Jalen Carter and that whole situation and how much is he going to drop because of what happened. It's one of those things, and I heard Shannon Sharp say this on Undisputed, is you can almost write it off to just being young and stupid. Like, I know we've done really stupid things when we were 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. We still do stupid things when we're in our 30s. But is there a sign in there that this is something that's going to be repetitive? Is he going to be a problem going forward? Or is this just being a young person being a young person being dumb? It would be one thing if he got caught racing out at 4 a.m. and there were no lives lost. The fact that there was death involved, even though he wasn't driving the vehicle where the person died, he was involved in the situation. That's just it's huge whenever you involve that. I mean, and then alcohol's involved. Of course, the police officer said that Jalen Carter was not drinking at the time, or they don't think he was. I just think that you can look at it one of two ways. Obviously, he's a great talent, and you can say, yeah, he's young. You give him this kind of money, and you put him in this kind of situation to have the future of his entire family set. Then he's going to settle down. He's not going to do this again. He's just being young and dumb. or you can say this is going to be a problem for the future. And I don't really know which one it's going to be. I know some team's going to take a chance on him. I think he'll still be a first rounder, but it's concerning.
It's an unfortunate situation that's really difficult to talk about when you see a team staffer and a teammate lost in a tragic accident like that, especially right after your team has been at the mountaintop of the sport. And the guy is an absolute dominant presence. We saw it we saw it all year long, but seeing it against Tennessee, should have had a strip sack in the end zone. They somehow they said it was, we were out of the end zone, but I mean, he's a game wrecker, but how much of that is worth it? Because you can say, yeah, he's going to settle down. He's just young and dumb, but is he going to be like John Morant? Is he going to be put in a situation where now he has all this money and he's going to go make stupid decisions? Is he going to be Henry Ruggs? What's going to happen?
Which he very well could have in that situation. He could have ended up just like Henry Ruggs. And I mean, it's just one of those things. It's going to be risky, but I know someone's going to take the risk because of the talent that he possesses.
Yeah, that's how good he is.
And as athletes, I've always heard that they feel invincible, and I think that's where he's coming from. He does these kind of things because he feels like, I'm on top of the world. Like you said, they just won the national championship, right? He's going to be one of probably top 5 draft pick, top 3. He's number 1 on Mel Kiper's overall list. I mean, he's that talented, so he feels like nothing can stop him. I just hope the lives lost, those 2 people, it really hits for him, and he said, "Man, I got to stop doing this crap. I got to stop."
He's at a point where he could turn it around and totally not have anything to do with this ever again. Be like, this is his changing point, like that. But it's a hard situation. Also, the fact that in the police report he left the scene for 2 hours and then came back. I hate that. I hate that part of it. That's the part that gets me on him. I don't know if that shows character. Like, I don't know. I don't even want the Eagles to touch him at 10. I don't even think I would want him to touch him at 30. That's how I feel about it. And to move into a little move into a better topic here, I'll talk about who I thought really, really impressed me. James covered a few of them with Nolan and Byron Young. They're both on my list. I also I hated on him previously. Christian Gonzalez, he looked fantastic. He was running, everything was pristine. His angles, everything. I enjoyed watching him. I changed my opinion completely. I know I had poop emoji next to his name was my only description in my previous estimate, but I really enjoy watching him now. Deonte Banks grew on me a bunch watching him run. And then that winds up DBs, wide receivers. Some ones I wasn't really looking at, but now I really enjoy. Zay Flowers and Jackson Smith-Njigba. They impressed me. How they ran through all their drills, how they pushed through every one of them, how they just some of them you can see they just dog it. They kind of are just there we go, running through the gauntlet. No, they were sprinting, they were cutting, they were slipping out as they were just trying to do everything they could to have the best times. I love that energy, and I think that was great. I actually have my description for Jalen Hyatt is a flat line and a mediocre face. He didn't impress me, and I don't know if it was the hype that we all were going in with it. This is who I want. I want him to replace Quez Watkins. He dropped. I mean, yes, both balls were thrown by Will Levis, and you're gonna hate on Will Levis. Both balls were thrown by Will Levis that he dropped that were hit him in his hands on the deep balls, and Will Levis hit him. I'm gonna say Will Levis hit him, and he dropped it.
Well, in his defense, wait. In his defense, Tennessee players are used to Will Levis throwing it to the defensive players, not their offensive players.
You had to add that point in.
Question for you, Austin, though, how much do you put on the NFL Combine? Because I know you were a big Jalen Hyatt guy, for the Eagles and everything, and you think the Combine he hasn't looked good. Does that really drop him off your list that much just because he doesn't look good in the Combine? Because in game he was phenomenal.
No. I just don't think it adds anything. See how I was on Christian Gonzalez, I was down, and now I'm he's back into my conversation because I brought him up. I had a flat line. He stayed exactly where he was for me.
It's hard for the Combine to bring a player down, but whereas you could bring a player up. through the combine.
Yes, you impress me. You can't lose out in it. I mean, one thing I did find out about Will Levis, he can't throw left. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I haven't watched enough Kentucky tape, but he can't
He
throw
threw
left.
2 picks to the left against Tennessee.
I just
Oh,
still don't
yeah.
get it. I don't get all the hype. And I mean, it's going to be weird when we come in 10 years and we're talking about Will Levis winning his 3rd Super Bowl title.
I
We're
hate
all we're like, what in the hell? How did we get this wrong?
I hate it. Like, and it's funny because my wife asked me this week, why do you hate Will Levis so much? He never even beat Tennessee. And I was like, I just hate the hype around him.
You don't hate
Like,
the guy. You hate the fact that everybody thinks that he's the next coming of Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
when
and
he's
he
not.
Same reason. It's the same reason I hate Brock Purdy. The same thing. I don't hate the guy. I just really hate the fact that people hype it up.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
he
with
drinks
him.
mayonnaise in his coffee. That's gross.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Does he
Yeah,
actually
I-
do that?
Yes,
That's
I would-
weird.
he's doing it.
You
All
go
right,
into
He puts the fuel on him.
That's
go into the break room,
disgusting.
you got a coffee pot.
That's so nasty, dude.
Disgusting.
Andrew's about to throw up.
I hate mayonnaise anyways, bro, but that oh man, that's enough to
Hold on,
make me
I'll send you
sick,
the
dude.
video.
Mayonnaise is good, but in coffee?
Nah.
Now,
No.
but to kind of piggyback off of what Austin said, like when we talked about teams that we wanted, or players who wanted our teams to draft, like we agreed we didn't want to take Jalen Hyatt in the first round. Like we didn't think that it was worth it. But if he comes out and he looks great and he runs like a 4.25, 4.28, like sub 4.3 40, like okay, like I can get with it. And Christian Gonzalez, we agreed with that. You said I stole your notes on that. It was just Christian Gonzalez question marks. But when you run a 4.38 and you have the same vertical as Nolan Smith and 11.1 broad jump, like I'd take him at 10 at this point in time. Like I would. So.
You watched his gauntlet and his footwork.
Mhm.
It was stellar. Like I watched it,
Yeah.
I was like, dang, he looks pedigree, like top
Mhm.
tier. I'm like, oh man, I'm liking this kid. I was like,
Yeah.
dang it. I wanted to hate him, and then I'm watching it, like he's really impressing me. And there was one quarterback that impressed me from the combine. And you're gonna be, oh, it's Anthony Richardson. No,
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 CJ
didn't do it.
Stroud.
Stetson Bennett. I can't
I
believe
know.
I'm saying this. He looked good, and everything was. Oh, he's gonna go to like Houston and win 9 games somehow, and we're all gonna be like, "Whoa, how did he do that?" And it's gonna just be.
I'm
insane.
just like curious about like when it comes to Stetson Bennett, what's the big negative on Stetson Bennett? I mean, I know he's not
He's
like
old.
the biggest. Yeah, I mean, he's older, sure, but it's
That's it,
also
that's all.
yeah, but it's also like you talk about all these high, like these quarterbacks that are hyped up. And you talk about Will Levis. I mean, Stetson Bennett wins games. Like, isn't that just
He's
what
a
you want? The
deep ball.
quarterback, he just wins games.
I
Like,
think that the argument you can make against him though is the team that he's had around him. Like, can he win with yeah? Can he win? Like, if he was a top 5 pick, can he win with Texans? Can he
Fair
win
enough.
with like the
Fair
Colts?
I don't think
Um,
he's not reasonable for a top 5 pick because he doesn't have that kind of
No.
like the special ability that maybe a CJ Stroud or I mean even Anthony Richardson, who I think his ceiling is super high, although his floor
His ceiling is prime Cam Newton. His
Yes.
basement is Jamarcus Russell.
agreed.
Like he has such a high I mean, he was a freak. He won the combine 4.40. Ran this as a massive quarterback. He ran the same 40 time as Jalen Hyatt. He broke the quarterback records for broad jump and vertical at the combine. But like, it's such a risk. It's such a risk because of the kind of player he is. Like, you got to really believe that he is going to be able to make that change. And of course, Darnell Washington is an absolute freak of nature.
For sure.
It's 6'7". I mean, just he's a
massive.
freak. Like Austin said, Jackson Smith and Jigba. People forget how good he is because he was hurt most of the season last year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was the star in Ohio State, but he didn't run the 40, but he was the clear winner of the wide receiver group in the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuffle or shuttle. So somebody's going to pick him, and he's going to be a dog. I think he'll be like a. Now Stetson Bennett. Let me listen to this prediction. Now I'm timestamp it whatever right now. Stetson Bennett is going to end up in Minnesota, and he's going to take it from Kirk Cousins, and they're going to have the quarterback that they need, and it's going to suck, but it's going to happen. That's my bold prediction right now. They're going to take him in like the 4th, and it's going to.
That's sort of what I'm saying. You get a team with a lot of talent around him, late in the draft that maybe like Kirk Cousins, he's your starting quarterback. It is what it is.
Mhm.
But you have questions around him, and so it'd be
Mhm.
nice to have a backup who you can say, "Give this guy a shot," and you never know.
Andrew, NFL Combine, anybody stand out to you? Anybody we haven't talked about?
Well, you guys have talked about my number one, which was Anthony Richardson. Um, as you mentioned, he set multiple records. He set the record for the vertical jump with 40.5 inches, 10 foot 9 inch broad jump, tied with the modern combine QB record. 4.43 40-yard dash, which was the fourth best time for a quarterback since '03. So he
That's
set
not
all kinds of records.
fast, but my God,
Yeah,
He's burning, and he's big.
Yeah.
that's insane.
You
Yeah.
compare his combine with Cam Newton, and he's better.
And
in
Anthony
every
Richardson
single-
wins. He wins, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you watch their tape
The
and you see
tape.
Cam Newton, who's
Watch the
literally
tape.
half a baby,
Anthony Richardson,
it's not
his
the
tape-
same thing.
his
He's
tape is
not better than Cam Newton.
No,
Cam-
no, of course not.
Cam Newton at Auburn was
Oh,
maybe
no.
the best single season in the history of college football.
Yeah.
But
What do you put
I like
that
Johnny
to-
Manziel though. College
he
football.
didn't even
wise.
win a championship, though.
Do you put that to football mind, or what do you put that to, like, the difference? Like, his talent? I mean, he's got the talent. He has the body to do it. It's just he
It's a
doesn't have the
mental-
decision-making. Like,
Yeah.
He also
I guess
had Sunbelt
You think it's
Billy
something
Napier as
mental?
his head coach.
I think it's a mental thing, just like you can
That's what I was
attribute that to Jamarcus Russell, because like Jamarcus Russell, when he came out, it was like, man, this guy's he's gonna be it. Like he's him, right? And I just think it's a mental thing. Like you get in your own head, and I mean, when you have that kind of talent, you have that kind of size, and you have all the abilities in the world. I mean, what else can you attribute it to? I think it has to
Yeah.
be mental.
Yeah.
And
Where do
also,
you-
like I said, his coaching wasn't good. I mean, Billy Napier,
Yeah.
yeah.
like, who was Jamarcus Russell's coach at Alabama, or not at Alabama, at LSU? Was he there for Saban, or was it Les Miles?
I think it was Les Miles.
Either way, he had a good coach, and then he went to the Raiders and sucked.
I would not be surprised, and I'll say it now. I would not be surprised if Anthony Richardson's the best quarterback that comes out of this draft. I wouldn't
He
be
might
surprised.
be.
I wouldn't be a
Oh.
little bit.
He is the biggest gamble, but he has the highest ceiling, and it's because if you give him the right quarterback coach and he puts his mind to it, just think about, we had Jalen Hurts, the same thing. Like, it was, oh, he's this rough cut gem. Like, if you actually make him go, he had the drive, the coaching, and he had all that to push him to that next level. And
Yeah.
if you give him the right tools, he can do it. He has the ability. It's just, will he do it? You know?
Okay, I just looked this up too. Jamarcus Russell, Nick Saban was his head coach at LSU,
Oh, was
so
it?
he had that going for him. Anybody know who his offensive coordinator was? He's a head coach in the SEC now.
Lane Kiffin? No. No, it'd be
Jimbo Fisher.
Oh yeah, that's
So it's not like he was in bad hands. So Anthony Richardson could very well be, because
Speaking
you
of
had
I hate this being a Cowboys fan. I'm sure y'all are gonna hate it as an Eagles fan, but just imagine him with EB over in Washington.
no.
Like I feel like that'd be a great situation.
I think that they're going to ride Sam Howell this year.
I think they're gonna ride Sam Howell, but I'm just saying, like you put him as an offensive coordinator for
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
What team do you think he ends up with?
Anthony Richardson, I think he's gonna end up with a bad team because he'll get drafted. I think top 7, probably maybe even top 5.
Raiders. That's my pick.
Maybe Indy.
Maybe. We'll see.
He's not a tall old white guy.
I could
That's
see him
fair.
going to the Colts.
Stetson Bennett's a perfect pick for them.
No,
Yeah,
Will
right.
Levis is their
He's
their
not tall
guy.
though. Yeah, Will Levis would be that.
So we'll of course. I have a sleeper though. Andre Iosivas, wide receiver out of Princeton, 6'3", big body, ran a 4.43 40. Very clean routes, great body control. I think he could be a guy that you see go in later rounds that could maybe make an impact on a team. I watched him run the 40 and he was pretty impressive. So that's my sleeper of the combine. So, but
My sleeper is Max Duggan.
okay, yeah,
I
we know the
think
guy
he's
will will a team.
Dude's a dog. Like he
He's
is.
rough. He's rough,
Yeah.
but you give him the right coaching, that kid can do it. He's got the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And he was
definitely
only
he's still.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go.
No, he was only about 70 points away from winning a national championship. So.
That sucked.
Hey.
Terrible.
But hey,
national
you know what? In a couple of weeks, right before the draft, we've decided that we're going to do a squared J squared live draft. It's going to be our draft podcast. We're going to divide up the picks and make some picks, and we'll see who sticks and where it lands and where these guys that we've talked about end up. So it's going to be fun. This has been, like I said, it's been our most wide-ranging podcast, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And as always, please like, subscribe this video, follow us, A2J2 Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and A2J2 Podcast on TikTok. We need to get some stuff up on that TikTok, but continue share this video with your friends that might like it. Keep blowing it up, and I think we might have a little bit of merchandise coming for us. Another test batch is on the way, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, next week, me and James will be together, so that'll be an interesting. And we have a special guest for next week. I
Yes,
hear.
we have a special guest for next week. We're gonna just leave it at that. Our first special guest.
And then we're gonna go looking for some merch. So we should know some more information next week.
Absolutely. All right. I'm gonna sign off by saying "Go Birds" as always. Anybody else want to say anything?
Go Birds.